All right. Hello. Welcome again, everyone. Bienvenidos. It is so good to have you here for the 2024 Climate Action Kickoff, an event that is the first of its kind in that way. So appreciate everyone being here. It's truly no small thing. It takes so much sometimes in any given day or week to just be able to show up with an open heart and mind and passion and energy. So just really want to underscore for everyone here presenting today just how much we appreciate you being here and all the ongoing stuff that you've done leading up to this point too, since this is very likely maybe not the beginning of your journey, but a point along it. So just to say, every single effort matters, right? You're going to kind of hear that sentiment come through time and again tonight. And while the climate movement, is nothing new, it's been around for quite a long time. It somehow manages to move both slow and fast, right? Sometimes we don't see change as fast as we want to, but then from hour to hour, new information or new things have happened that change the landscape of what we're doing to some extent. So tonight we're going to try to wrangle all the moving parts, or at least some of those moving parts, maybe create some clarity and some grounding and some shared energy together, and really just take it and move it into making this a really big year, right? The climate crisis is not just a test, but a time test. So we've got to be able to get it right sooner than later. And just a big thank you again to anyone that gave a contribution tonight to help kind of fund and put this on. Your work is really happening in lifetime. So big gratitude for that. Here's what we're going to be covering. We're going to recap climate stuff that happened at those three levels of global, national, and local. We're going to move into talking about what challenges there still are, what we're still up against and kind of working in. And then our shared strengths as a response in that, and what we all have as a means to rise up against that and together, which will really feed itself into talking about goals and roles. And that's really where we want to make sure tonight you all come away feeling like you understand or have that connection, that opportunity, that inspiration to explore something with us if you haven't before, or if you've done something in the past and you want to try something different. It's always good to shake it out. So then we'll wrap up going forward, and we'll have some polls and some interaction in between and throughout. So just keep that in mind, be ready for that. And yeah, we'll really get dug in from there. Starting mostly too with some introductions here. So I am Chelsea Alexander. For those of you that don't know me, I use she, her, aya pronouns. I live in Golden, Colorado, and I've been working as the movement building and volunteer director with 350 Colorado for about 2.5 years now. As a physical descriptor for anybody that needs a little additional description, I am a white woman with short blonde hair. I'm wearing my contacts tonight, and I have a dark V-neck sweater on. And with that, I'll pass it to my teammate, Melissa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa. I use she, her pronouns and am based in South Denver. I am the Denver, Boulder, and Colorado Springs team coordinator. So as we start to talk about opportunities, then I'll be able to talk with a lot of you who are based in those spaces. For a physical descriptor for me, I am currently wearing pink long dangly earrings. I am a white woman with blonde long hair and a green shirt on this evening. I will pass it over to Sarah.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah. As you can hear, I'm a little sick, but the positive about doing this on Zoom is I can't get any of you sick. I use she, her pronouns. I live in Fort Collins, and I am the Northern Colorado team coordinator. And as a physical descriptor, I'm a white woman in my early 20s. I wear glasses, I have long curly brown hair, and I'm wearing a blue sweater. And I will pass it over to Matt.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Gose. I am in Arvada, Colorado, and I use he, him pronouns. I was the Roaring Fork team coordinator starting last year, and as of January of this year, I'm currently the promoting climate solutions coordinator here at 350 Colorado. Some visual descriptors: I'm a white man with brown hair, wearing a dark green crew neck, and yeah, no glasses or anything like that. And I will pass it to Bridget.
Thanks, Matt. Hello, everyone. My name is Bridget. I use she, her pronouns. I am based in Boulder, and I am the development director for 350 Colorado. As a descriptor of me, I have brown eyes and long curly brown hair. I'm currently wearing medium-sized hoops in my ears, and I'm wearing a black shirt. I will pass it to Sierra.
My name is Sierra, and I use she, her pronouns as well. I work as the communications coordinator with 350 Colorado, and my visual description is that I am a white woman with long brown hair, and I'm wearing a black t-shirt and glasses tonight. And I'll pass to Bobby.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bobby Mooney, and I live in Denver. I'm the Beyond Oil and Gas campaign coordinator for 350 Colorado. And for my visual descriptor, I'm a white woman, middle-aged with short brown hair, and tonight I'm wearing a fluffy gray scarf. And I'll pass it. I believe we don't have Heidi yet. Is that right, Chelsea?
Yeah, Heidi will be joining us just a little bit later, so I'll have to remember to make sure she introduces herself as she gets to chatting about her section. Excellent. Yes, Heidi's our climate policy analyst as well, so I'll let her share more in her introduction when the time comes. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you for folks that have been joining maybe in the last minute or two, hearing what we're going to be covering and who's going to be presenting tonight. So with that, to kick us off into just recapping some of the big stuff of last year, since there was a lot of it, I'm curious if folks here were aware or had heard that 2023 was considered to be the best year ever for clean energy. And I can go into more specifics and share some kind of sources around that, but really just a staggering uptake of all the things we want to see, right? Wind and solar and renewable energies. There's really just good stuff to call out there. And I just wanted to call that out at a very large level before now passing it over to my teammate, Melissa, to dig into other global concepts and things that we saw last year.
Thank you. And yes, we're so glad you all are here, and we're going to be talking briefly about the global context of the climate world, specifically in 2023, because just as Bill just put in the chat, it also was a mass amount of broken records. It was the best year in terms of clean energy, but it was also the hottest year on record. And greenhouse gas levels were additionally at an all-time high. Sea level rise was at an all-time high. The loss of Antarctic sea ice was at an all-time high. And it now has been predicted that it is likely in 2024, this year, that we will pass that tipping point that the UNFCCC has talked about, the 1.5 degrees Celsius of global warming, which in the context of the climate crisis is said to be this like point of no return where we won't be able to go back to what the climate was historically like. Continuing with the UNFCCC, it's standing for the United Nations Framework on Climate Change. There was COP28 that happened this past year. It was held in Dubai in December of 2023. And it was monumental because this was the first time ever that the conference had ever acknowledged that fossil fuels were the cause of global warming. And the final decision that came out of all of it stated that it was calling for a transition away from fossil fuels in energy systems in order to achieve this net zero emissions by 2050. And while that was a big deal, it is still bittersweet because over 128 countries were calling for harsher, more language that had more of a bite to it, explaining that there was a phase out of fossil fuels rather than this transition away from. So as we move forward, it's helpful to keep our eyes on things like the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty It was signed by 12 nation states this past year at COP28 and endorsed by hundreds of thousands of individuals, which is a negotiating mandate seeking to end the expansion of coal, oil, and natural gas production. And a fast track to this clean energy that we were talking about was on the rise with 2023. I also think that it's important that as we're talking about the global context of 2023, it's imperative that I speak to the link between the climate crisis and war, which was very prevalent, and it was a running theme throughout the year and throughout COP28. And we've seen that war-torn Gaza and Yemen and Syria and the Ukraine all have been making their voices heard by stating that this violent conflict is ruining their capacity to manage these climate-driven risks. And the human right to a healthy, safe space to work, live, and play is not lost on the climate movement. It's really at the forefront of it. And this severe violence and carbon-intensive militarism that is currently present in a lot of spaces in the world does not align with what the climate movement is calling for, with a just transition and with a care-centered economy, with the climate, as the climate movement is going more forward. So as these climate stressors continue to escalate, then 350 Colorado and the general climate movement are really working to emphasize humanity and climate justice through all of our missions. And we're gonna now talk a little more locally about the US level.
So thank you, Melissa. Yeah, so shifting from that larger lens down to the US now, there's so many things that happen from year to year, just sort of really just focus on a few here. We felt it was important to call out a couple things around leadership. There's a thing here, not just in the US, but across the world, that if enough groups start to push something, right, it creates a tipping point. And here in the States, if we get enough states to pass something, it's only kind of a matter of time before federal level follows. And seeing places like California pass the strongest regulations this past year when it came to actually phasing out oil and gas and fracking, and just setting a new precedent for, prioritizing community and our planet and the health and the well-being of all of those. So we know Colorado can also be that leader, as we'll talk more about tonight too. We have the means, and we have the reputation as a environmental, climate champion, and we have a chance to live up to that. We are a part of a national network, 350 Colorado. There are a variety of campaigns and things that we still do try to realize and move forward on. So there were a number of those last year that we were able to help actualize through the help of Bobby and others on this call, that we could throw down during national weeks of action or national days of action to divest or call our elected leaders to, demand a climate emergency. And, a lot of those fights across the country too, as fossil fuels continue to try to expand off Gulf shores up in Alaska, the Mountain Valley Pipeline fight, that inextricably becomes politicized really quickly, unfortunately. And sometimes it's the lack of leadership that we're not seeing enough of. And last year, there definitely could have been more leadership across the board, just not see those types of projects go through. So the fight continues on those levels today. But in terms of kind of big events, things that happened, further tipping points and those influential moments and movements, a lot of folks probably saw that there was a very big Climate Week March in New York City in the fall. Major shout out to Giselle Hertzfeld and our team who was there and represented so fiercely and passionately. Really, really big opportunity to show how many people are thinking about the climate crisis and how we are looking for answers and demanding responses in faster time to get here. Two really big Supreme Court cases finally got some momentum through, and you all maybe have heard of these, but Held versus Montana and Juliana versus the United States were two really significant cases brought forth by youth plaintiffs saying that a livable climate is an unalienable right? We have a right to a livable future, and that our government has done things to directly jeopardize that. So these cases have huge foundation and huge opportunity to continue on this year and actually be heard, have those youth leaders be recognized, for all their contributions and work they've put into this organizing. And really, yeah, hopefully set again a new precedent that a livable future is a right for all of us and 7 generations to come. So the last thing I'll say here are some really significant reports and studies that came out. And a lot of times what comes out of these are really interesting strategies and tactics for us to consider, either ones we've been doing and need to try to revamp a little, or ones we've never considered. And 2, I want to call out that I'll follow up with as resources for anyone here that wants to take a deeper dive if you haven't heard of them. One is from the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, and it's 5 key strategies of how to accelerate action across America. So it covers a lot of really, really interesting topics that are worth delving into more. But I actually want to pay just attention to this other study that came from the Yale Program of Climate Change Communication. Pretty big group. They put out things in the last couple of years, but just at the end of last year, they put out something called Climate Change in the American Mind. And it was a really comprehensive study looking at, right, where are people at thinking about the climate crisis? And I guess one statistic I just want to leave with you all as I pass it then to my teammate Matt is that out of this report, it said that 63% of Americans say they feel a personal sense of responsibility to help reduce global warming or the climate crisis. And that's an uplifting figure. Not that it is up to individuals to take on all the responsibility for issues that have been created by corporations and upholding oppressive systems and not great leaders. That's all true still. But if every individual is doing what they can as well, we will and are going to create that wave that we need to really create that change. So yeah, I'll share those resources here maybe shortly, even in the chat. But with that, I will pass it to my teammate Matt to talk about that local level here.
Thanks, Chelsea. So yeah, it was a big year for Colorado as a state as well. There were some awesome and critical bills passed in legislative session, such as the greenhouse gas reductions are now set to be at 100% by 2050. This is a part of the governor's roadmap that he brought out that also says that by 2025, it'll be at 26%, 50% by 2030, and 90% just before 2050. Along with that, climate change is now defined as a cumulative impact, human-induced, I guess. And as a result of that, the Oil and Gas Commission now has to take action on that. And that's a huge win. Yeah, the workforce transition from oil to gas to renewables is also being studied. And like I mentioned earlier, yeah, that roadmap has been updated. As far as wins are concerned, it's been a pretty awesome year. The Uinta Basin Railway, threatening to carry so much heated, waxy crude oil along the Colorado River all the way down to refineries in Texas and Louisiana, was actually stopped largely by the people. There were a ton of protests that took place all over the state. There was the Eagle County commissioner who stepped up and filed an actual lawsuit with the Center for Biological Diversity that really got things going there. And then that, on top of it, we had some of our legislators come and back us and sign saying that they didn't want this coming through Colorado. And so in August, it was actually originally set back, so they had to go and appeal to be heard and approved again. And then just recently here in December, they actually got denied again. And they keep trying to come back, but it's just been getting stomped down. So it was a huge win there with everything that was going on with a lot of those train spills that I'm sure you guys heard about in the last year. Yeah, and then let's see. There was also the 3,000 foot, 3,000 foot, oops, sorry, I lost my notes there for a second, and that is not correct. I apologize. Yeah, that's about it. And then the other thing is the Energy Carbon Commission, Management Commission has denied one further permit in this year, which was formerly the COGCC. And yeah, that was a big deal, but hopefully they can start denying some more of those as we move along. But with that, I will pass it over to Bobby to talk a little bit about SWOT analysis and challenges and threats.
Thank you, Matt. Great summary. to put us in context. So I'm going to kick us off talking about some of the big challenges that we face, right, as a movement and in the work that we do building a grassroots movement for climate action. And as no surprise to any of you, I'm sure, the challenges are many, right, and they're big. And I'll start off with just harking back to what Melissa mentioned, that emissions are high, right? Estimates show 36.8 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide emitted globally in 23. So despite goals to reduce and the need to reduce, we're still seeing an increase, small increase, 1.1%, but it is increasing. And of course, it's important to note that carbon emissions vary year to year naturally through factors like economic activity, energy consumption, technology, and policies. But overall, the trend is still going up when we know the trend needs to go down, and very dramatically. So that brings us to some of the other challenges that we have. As Melissa mentioned, the scientific consensus is that we will pass 1.5 degrees of global warming this year in 24. We will yet to see, but that's what it's looking like. And part of that, I think, really points really directly to that next challenge that we have listed here, the power of the fossil fuel industry, right? This industry influences how everything in our lives is made, is powered, is grown, is packaged, is transported, and disposed of. And this industry has a tremendous amount of power in our government. And that's part of why we see complacency in government at every level, from local to national and even international. We don't see government yet taking the action necessary at the scale and the speed that's required by the climate crisis. Instead, we see government protecting the status quo, right? Maintaining sort of business as usual in a lot of cases. And part of that is because of the power of corporate interests, corporate money in government that pushes government to not rock the boat, don't do any drastic responses to climate change because of a belief that it's not profitable in the short term to those corporate interests. And of course, another challenge we face is not enough distributed leadership and organizing. We know that grassroots movements best accelerate scaling through distributed impact and leadership, because decentralized organization is more effective and resilient because it can be more responsive to community needs and more flexible in trying a greater diversity of strategies that are too diverse to fail. So although we see some rapid evolution around this area, especially in the climate movement that's leading, we're still a long way off from the types of distributed power structures we know we need to transform our world and tackle the climate crisis. Another big challenge is funding, right? A lot of the money that funds grassroots movements and grassroots work comes from small donations, right? Supporters like many of you, your generous contributions and support. And then also grants, right? Hard-earned grants that can be very labor-intensive, as our development director here tonight can speak to. It's complex, and we are always outspent, right? We are always outspent by the fossil fuel industry and other corporate interests that are opposing climate action. And all of that brings me to sort of the big challenge listed there, the extractive economy, right? It's all connected. Colonialism, capitalism, consumerism, militarism. We are living in a global system that efficiently controls and consumes and oppresses people and the more than human world. And I'm sure some of you can relate when I say, once you start seeing it, you can't unsee it, right? And once you pull that thread, you start to find out how deep and how far back that thread runs through the culture, the history, the psyche of those of us raised by today's dominant culture. So these are some of the challenges that we face in this work and in this movement. And I know many of you can think of others as well. So I'll pass it on to talk about some strengths next.
Thanks, Bobby. So yeah, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of messages of hope and being hope versus having hope. A lot of that comes from grassroots organizing, and it really does come from the ground up. When you get a couple of people that are really inspired and passionate about something that's threatening them, once again, for example, the Uinta Basin Railway threatening the Glenwood Canyon and that whole section and way of life, or the 3,000-foot setbacks from the Aurora Reservoir, or any kind of occupied structures out there. Both of those huge wins were from the people wanting that, from the base of people wanting that, and it came from the ground up. I think that you have people that you're passionate, you have petitions go out, you have people attending different county halls or county commissioner meetings, and that kind of camaraderie, those people being together, you've got people that can direct it, but if we don't have the people from the baseline, you can't really have these responses, and you can't have this hope, and it really comes from within. And I'll pass it over to Chelsea to talk a little bit about a living economy.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, we don't like to spend too much time really bragging about our shared strengths, right? It's an exercise to do it, but pointing to history and knowing that we've won in a number of ways here in the state, and we can keep winning. And a lot of that will stem from the fact that we have a shared set of values and a vision, right, for a livable future for everybody, something that's just and equitable and built by regular people, just like all of us that are here tonight, right? And we have something that corrupt industries or passive leaders don't have in a lot of ways, which is really good relational organizing, not repeating the issues of an extractive culture, but really finding ways to connect with people authentically and uplift one another and meet people where they're at, right? There's so much that really does go into good relational organizing, but we really stand by this as a shared strength of all of ours to work with one another and get to know each other in the ways that we have and we will, and really utilize those connections and those passions to just uplift that vision that we have for creating the living economy. The other side of this diagram that you're seeing that Bobby just had. The living economy is something that we can realize if we really find that relational organizing thread of caring and sacredness for not just ourselves and one another, but of course the planet. Finding ways to be regenerative in the resources that we use, and really keeping ecological well-being, social well-being at the forefront. That will really lead to what is true deep democracy, at least in my mind, I will say, because we might live in a democratic country and state, but we know that we have a long way to go to really realize what that means in the truest sense, right? So we hope that the organizing that we're all doing together, up until this point and going forward, just really lives and these concepts of the living shared economy of care and compassion. And one really powerful quote too that I think is worth repeating from really important leaders of the past is from Grace Lee Boggs, an activist and philanthropist. She said that movements are born of critical connections rather than critical mass. And of course, we need lots of people, right, to do the things that we want to do, but we need to be deeply connected and caring for one another and ourselves in that journey, or else we're just not going to quite maybe execute the way we want to. So again, that living economy, making the choices that really just lead to healthier, better lives and a future for all of us and generations to come. So with that, we got a quick poll for y'all. two of them. One of them is going to be on Zoom. So you'll have a thing pop up on your screen here in just a minute with 4 questions. And then the second one we'll do in the chat. So the first one here is, of all the things you've heard this evening, or maybe things you thought about as well, things that have been added to the chat here to just enrich our discussion, what climate issue has motivated you the most? And we came up with these 4 categories: keeping fossil fuels in the ground, securing regenerative, renewable solutions, demonstrating people power and movement building, and ensuring justice, equity, and inclusion are central. I'm going to open this poll and take a second there. What jumped out to you most? No right or wrong answers, thankfully. Yes. Beautiful. Nice. Is everyone able to see this poll going in live time, seeing the results showing? Excellent. Very cool. This is a good distribution here of what we see as campaign work, keeping fossil fuels in the ground and securing renewable solutions. And then demonstrating people power and ensuring our values are central in the work that we're doing, being a part of that as well. Looks like almost everyone's responding, so I'll give you like 4 more seconds. But thank you for leaning into that. Awesome. So the second poll here, you can just drop this in the chat here in Zoom. But what is your why? You know, what really motivates you from day to day, or to come tonight, or to, you know, really just take those steps in the journey of organizing? I know there's going to be a lot of overlap here, because a lot of us are going to find similar threads as to why. My why is that I feel a deeper connection to the planet. And kind of like that statistic earlier, I feel a personal responsibility to be a part of that. So what do we got going in the chat? Only choose one. Yes, I saw that go. Children from Heidi. Yes, the people connections, right? It's inextricably a part of our motivation oftentimes, and just willingness to show up for something bigger than ourselves. The connectedness of life. I love that, Allison. Yeah, your future. You have a right to a livable future. The non-human neighbors. Very beautiful things. That's, yeah, connective to see that we all share so much when it comes to wanting to protect and uplift and, yeah, create the same future that everybody can hopefully enjoy and be a part of. I love that. Awesome. Well, feel free to keep sharing it, because I'm going to keep looking at it when I'm not presenting here, just to be able to enjoy it. But with that, we are shifting gears into the back half, or the last third of what we're covering here tonight, which is really to talk about those goals and roles, as we said earlier. And we have these broken up into 3 kind of bodies of work here that we do. That's operations as an organization, that you'll hear from first. Moving into talking about movement building, very people-forward, people-oriented pieces, and then wrapping with campaigns. So as each person comes on to chat about their areas here, again, these are goals pulled like directly from our strategic plan. This is like what we're working towards, and how there are ways to distribute this leadership and this organizing with these roles, if you are so inspired or interested in doing something new or something for the first time. And a small note here before I pass it to my teammate Bridget, but all the roles that you'll hear about tonight basically can fall into one of these 4 categories, if not multiple categories. So if your brain just kind of works that way, and thinking of like, I know I enjoy communication-based things, which is comms, or I enjoy the campaign nitty-gritty hands-on stuff, You'll see some of these tags as we go along, but they will also be reinforced in a resource that we follow up with you after today. So just, yeah, you'll be able to reinforce it later. So yeah, with that, like I said, I will pass it over to talk about our operation stuff with Bridget.
Awesome. Thanks, Chelsea. So my name is Bridget. I am the development director. Bobby kind of mentioned me a little bit, but I'm going to be talking a little bit about fundraising and its importance to our organization. So fundraising plays a pivotal role in sustaining and advancing the mission of 350 Colorado, as we are a 501c3 grassroots nonprofit. And I just also, while I'm here, want to extend a huge thank you to everyone who has contributed and donated to our work. Like mentioned before, donors like you make our work possible. That's why we can be here today. And we are so grateful for your continued support. Fundraising is so important as it provides the necessary financial resources to operate effectively and push for a sustainable future. From supporting ongoing programs to initiating new pressing projects, fundraising ensures a steady income stream that enables us to make a real, tangible impact. It also fosters a real sense of community involvement and collaboration. Fundraising, as you might not think about it, but it also brings people together with a shared mission and purpose. It creates a network of supporters who are invested in ensuring a climate just future. And some of our short-term goals are to raise sufficient funds to cover staffing, benefits, program costs, and other expenses in our anticipated 2024 budget. Some long-term goals we have is ensuring sustainable funding and investment in our important climate work to have a larger impact on the Colorado climate movement. And that can range from anything from increasing staff and staff time to expanding programming in our campaigns. And I'm going to talk a little bit next about different roles that you can plug into. So if you're interested in fundraising, we have a lot of great opportunities that you can be involved in. One of the main ones is you can play an active role on our fundraising committee by attending our committees, but we're also looking for co-chairs to help run those meetings and lead. If you're interested in donor relations, you can lead, connect, and form partnerships with larger donors, philanthropists, donations, companies, and businesses. We're always looking to expand our network and to tap into those different funders around Colorado and share those connections with each other. If you're interested in supporting our mid and end year fundraiser, we have that twice a year. And you can do that by letter writing, phone banking, sending emails. If you're into the more creative outlet, we also have areas where you can do video design and graphic creation. There's a lot of different realms within fundraising to utilize those skills. If you want to kind of go above and beyond, you can lead whole fundraising events. If you're interested, you can host house parties in person or online, or events that cater to your own creativity. And there's everything in between too. So if there's something that I didn't say today and you're really gung-ho about it, I would love to connect. But in the meantime, I'll pass it to Sierra to talk more about communications.
Hey y'all, I'm Sierra and I am the communications coordinator, and I'm just going to briefly kind of go over some of our goals and the ways that we communicate on climate. Long term, our main goal is just to kind of be part of the shift in the public narrative and expand the Overton window into sort of what's acceptable to talk about in terms of public policy, social issues. Yeah, the Overton window is just sort of the spectrum of ideas on those things that are considered acceptable by the general public at any given time. The interesting thing about the Overton window is that it's just as easily influenced by truth and by facts as misinformation. So sometimes countering that misinformation is an important part of communications, not just in our organization, but in the broader climate justice movement as well. And then on the short term, Some of our communications goals are to communicate about the events we have going on, action opportunities, some of the important short-term action alerts, for example, opportunities to give a public comment or something like that. A lot of times we only have maybe a week of a window to do that, so getting those sorts of alerts out. And then just communicating about all the bodies of work that you're going to hear mentioned in the rest of this webinar too. And some of the ways that we communicate are through social media, letters to the editor, monthly newsletter that we put out. We have a weekly email going out with a lot of those sort of events and shorter term action alerts. One-on-one conversations, of course, that's always critical. And then just some legislative advocacy. And on the next slide, I'm going to show you a few ways that you can plug in with comms if you're interested in getting involved. One of the easiest roles that you can take part in is just being a social media activist. And, you know, this isn't something that's super formal, but just when you have the time, share, comment, like, or even save any posts that you see from us. This just really helps boost our reach and get the message out to more people, which is great. We are also looking for a comms co-chair. So that would be doing some more content creation work and working one-on-one together to communicate about maybe certain things that you're interested in helping out with, or just some kind of general things we have going on at the moment. And then another way to plug in is writing. And there are plenty of opportunities to use your writing skills to communicate about climate challenges and solutions. One of them is a letter to the editor I mentioned earlier. It's one of the most read sections in most newspapers. So it's just a really great opportunity to get in front of the public and get your voice heard, advocate for different solutions, or argue against things that may or may not be solutions. There are a lot of false solutions recently that are being kind of pushed in the mainstream, like carbon capture, direct air capture, things like that. A lot of things that you may want to argue for or against. And LTEs usually don't take too long to write. They're sometimes around 300 words, kind of in that range. So it can be a sort of easier short-term opportunity to get involved with writing. We also have a newsletter committee, and we meet every other week on Zoom. We can work together by email as well. But yeah, that's just an opportunity to write a piece on any area of climate justice or climate action that you're interested in and get that piece in our monthly newsletter. And those are the main 3 ways that you can plug in with comms right now.
It's fantastic. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Bridget, as well. Both of those areas of work that represent operations tonight are cool because they connect directly to the next section on movement building. They help create critical connections, right? We're talking, communicating, networking. It really makes a difference in a strong, united movement. So like I said, our second bucket here out of the 3 on movement building, I'm going to touch on some statewide general stuff and some really cool roles that I'd love to have some partnership with. And then pivoting to some local team level stuff as well. If you're looking for more stuff like in your backyard versus on the statewide level. So just the first things here, you know, we've kind of touched on and off tonight about movement building and its importance. But one piece I want to really drill home is that it only takes about 3.5% of a given population to be really activated to see a really high likelihood of that movement getting what it wants. That was a figure that came from a study by Erica Chenoweth, and I can share more about that as well as a resource to explore further. But it's a very inspiring number because 3.5% of Colorado's population is a couple 100,000 people. We're not the only groups out there trying to organize for a better livable future. So when we're working in coalition together and really being intersectional in that way, we can really realize this 3.5% activated movement. And with activists that are grounded in the work that we do and the values and the vision that we have, they're interconnected in a variety of ways, not just to staff members, but to one another. And really through those interconnections, having that resiliency and that passion that really just drives a movement and leads to wins at the end of the day. So long term, yeah, that's the goal. Build a critical mass movement that is centering environmental justice issues and our JEDI principles, as we use as a shorthand for justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and just prioritizing collaboration in coalition. Because again, there's so many wonderful groups out there doing very similar work, and we shouldn't be working too siloed, right? We got to find ways to make sure we're maximizing our shared resources and passions. And in the short term too, very tangibly, we're looking to do a little revamping around our Youth Action Committee, or YAC, as we also call it. So yeah, as students, get older and change schools or graduate or move on, there's just always opportunity here for growth and kind of revamping. So for those that are 24 or younger or connected to schools, as I'll say here in a moment, this could be something that really could activate you in a great way. 4 particular roles here. Those first 2, I'm really looking for folks that are interested in being, those people person, those welcomers, those connective leaders in the movement. And I'll say too, I know a number of you here tonight that do this already. So a huge shout out to you for doing this in the areas and the ways that you do. But a local node leader, as I've been kind of calling it, is really someone that's just willing to help distribute information further in their networks. This intersects with communications a lot, but this is really having a regular way to put out actions and things in your zip code to people that are down the street from you, and really just acting as a way to distribute, again, our organizing and leadership. And that feeding into, as well, being a one-to-one welcomer. So if you feel like you're a seasoned activist, the lay of the land, you understand the landscape and the organizing needs, and you're willing to meet with new people that really don't have a foundation yet, but are looking to build one, would love to work with you to be a welcomer in that way. Because that's one of my favorite parts about my job, and a lot of other folks here tonight too. But I know that's something that can be distributed and shared with others to make us more connected in that way. And then the last 2 things around the Youth Action Committee, specifically, we're looking for 1 to 2 co-chairs to help lead that space and put on events that are in relation to and within our campaigns and bodies of work here, as well as being a school connector. So this is where you don't have to be 24 or younger, but if you have kids, you have nieces or nephews, you're an educator, you work at a school system, what have you, would love to be able to connect with you, or have our Youth Action Committee connect with you, so that we can do more to activate and develop youth leaders and support them and make sure that their vision and voices for the future are really heard, since youth are one of the most disproportionately impacted groups of the climate crisis and what they're inheriting. So yeah, let's move and build together. Let's do it. I'd love to get in touch with you, and my contact information, if you don't already have it, will definitely be available here at the end. But with that, I will pass it to my teammate, Sarah.
So we have a lot of really exciting things happening in Northern Colorado. So if you are up here, or if you want to do some of this remotely, we would love to have you. We're always looking for people who are interested in what we're doing. So for our goals, we have increased the number of confident, informed climate activists that engage in regular actions through team meetings and events. So we're really pushing for movement building this year. We're doing this by having monthly in-person events that are all centered around a theme. So our first one is in February. We're doing Little Valentines to the Earth. It's going to be really cute, really crafty. If you live up here or don't mind a drive, we'd love to have you. And we're just going to try to do those every month, whether it's like trivia or bingo, just ways to get the community together and talking and thinking about climate. And our next goal is make Larimer and Weld County a leader in climate action by supporting existing local and statewide efforts to stop fracking and protect frontline communities. So this obviously includes supporting the ballot initiative. And we also want to do work in Greeley around the fracking sites that are really dangerously close to schools, and just do some community work. We're working with CSU, their air quality monitoring, and we want to communicate that data So if that's something you're interested in, even if you're not in Northern Colorado, I would love to connect. I think we could work together on that. But here we have our nice little roles. We're currently looking for a leadership council member or an LC. What the LCs do, we basically meet once a month at a cute little coffee shop and we talk about our goals for the month and how we're going to achieve those goals. It looks great on a resume if you're resume building or if you're just wanting to become more active in the movement. That's a great way to start. We also have Divest CSU campaign member. We're trying to get CSU to divest from fossil fuels. If that's something you're interested in, we are always looking for more people for that. We have social media and promotional support. If you're really good at Canva or you're really passionate about Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or would like to help me do that, I currently run it, but I'm definitely looking for more support there. And also community event planning specialist, if you're good at planning or organizing, or you're interested in what I was talking about earlier. And the last is fundraising chair. Obviously, all the work we do requires money, and I'm not super great at fundraising, as I found out. I'm working on it. That's something that I'm trying to get better at. But if that's something that you're already really good at or passionate about, I would love to have your help. And my email will be at the end if you want to connect on any of these things.
Hi, everyone. So just like Sarah, then I'm here to speak to you about some of the place-based teams that you can join. This first one, we're going to speak to Denver. It holds our state capital, as you all know. So there has been a ton of action and activism that's been going on with the climate legislation. And there's always different events or places to show up with people power, whether it be in person or online. So I would always advocate for looking into that either through our media or through emails. A large portion of the Denver team, the energy is focused around the Suncor oil refinery, which is pictured there on the screen. It's Colorado's only oil and gas refinery, and it's located in Commerce City. So Suncor is the main contributor, one of the main contributor to making Commerce City 80216 the most heavily polluted zip code in the entire United States. And I currently co-chair the Suncor Action Committee with our frontline organizer, whose name is Lucy Molina, a total powerhouse. Anybody who has had the ability to and privilege to speak with Lucy yet, then you feel her fire and energy, and she is a current resident of Commerce City. So I also really want to make sure to emphasize that anybody who is on this call who has already done things surrounding the Suncor Action Committee, a lot has been accomplished over the last few years, and that's a big deal, and that deserves to be celebrated. But we currently meet every other Monday and would love to see you all there to figure out how we can structure ourselves and put some energy towards the oil refinery. There's two other place-based teams that to speak to. There's the Boulder team, which includes the Greater Boulder County, Longmont, Louisville, and more. A lot of those pillars involve working on clean energy and regenerative agriculture, divestment, a complete ban on fracking, which Bobby also mentioned. And we, similar to what Sarah was speaking to with this concept of an LC, the Leadership Council, we are actively looking to recruit more members for both the Boulder team and the Colorado Springs team, which, as we all have said, then our emails will be at the end and I can speak more to what that means. But our last place-based team currently is Colorado Springs. There's a lot of forward-moving energy there. People are advocating for clean water and air and especially livable wages in the community. So as we continue to speak to the people who are living there and figuring out what makes most sense and what people are excited about surrounding the climate movement, then we'll be able to form these goals. But that is all I have to say for now for the local teams.
Yes, thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Sarah. And as we shift then from movement building to the last bucket here and really get us wrapped up tonight, We got keeping fossil fuels in the ground, climate policy, and promoting solutions. Based on the poll from earlier too, it sounds like there was a lot of activation and just natural interest here. So very excited with that then to pass it over to my teammate, Bobby.
Thank you, Chelsea. I'm happy to kick off the campaigns part of our program tonight with the Keep Fossil Fuels in the Ground campaign, which has been a long time core campaign for 350 Colorado. I currently serve as the Beyond Oil and Gas campaign coordinator. And so my message to all of you is to say it loud and say it proud. Keep fossil fuels in the ground and phase out fracking by 2030. So under this campaign, we have a lot of fantastic goals. Our long-term goals include phasing out fossil fuel permitting, specifically oil and gas permitting here in Colorado by 2030 with a just transition. That's really critical. That is a justice-based transition for the workers and the communities most impacted by the transition. Secondly, shift public opinion about the role and detrimental impacts of oil and gas. We still have a lot of public opinion out there in Colorado to shift. And some of the biggest parts to shift around are the true economic costs and benefits of this industry. Spoiler alert, the costs are much more than the benefits. It's not worth it. It's not worth it, y'all. And our short-term goals, this is really key to everything that we're doing in this arena, is to build powerful coalitions to keep fossil fuels in the ground and center frontline community members in this work. And that's another key component of our commitment to justice and equity in this climate justice work that we do. So those are our big goals. And of course, there's strategies and tactics under those. But next, I want to talk about some roles to help out with this Keep Fossil Fuels in the Ground campaign. So this is just a sample, but one of the things we're looking for right now is a couple of co-captains for our Fracking Action Committee. So we currently meet bi-weekly, every other week is when that committee meets on Mondays in the afternoon, and we're looking for some co-captains to help lead those meetings or facilitate, invite some interesting guest speakers, and bring some new ideas to our committee meetings. So if that is of all interest to you, I'd really love to connect and talk more and support you in developing into that role. Another important role is watchdogging our state and local regulators. So that entails keeping tabs on their activity through their website and their email lists and their social media sometimes if they have it. And just keeping tabs on what are they doing around oil and gas in Colorado to identify action opportunities. Is there an opportunity for public comment? Is there an opportunity to attend a hearing or a reason to organize an event or rally around or in response to local and state government action? So really just keeping tabs. We need a good watchdog who can check in and keep tabs on what's happening. And then a new one that we're looking to develop is the comms and media team for our Stop Fracking Aurora campaign. There is a massive oil and gas development plan for Southeast Aurora, over 160 wells, and the community there, led by STAR, Save the Aurora Reservoir, our awesome friends at STAR, they're leading the charge to push back against this disastrous plan, and they need some help with comms and media stuff. So really getting the message out there. And so if you have an interest or a knack in that regard, we'd love to have you on the team with us. And that's it from me for now. I'd love to connect with you more.
I think that brings us to Heidi, who did join us there after a while. Hello.
Hey, yes, great to be here, and thank you all for coming. Climate policy covers both regulatory policy and legislation. So we have a lot of overlap with the legislative committee, but the regulatory work is where the rubber meets the road. So basically, once the law is put into action, once a law is passed, it doesn't just magically start happening. The agencies actually have to create the nitty-gritty rules that tell industry what they have to do in order to reduce pollution and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And those rules, they have the force of law. So they're like little mini laws that are super important. They're very specific. And the agencies are oftentimes captured by industry. And what that means is they tend to listen to industry more than they listen to the environmental voices, which is why it's super important for the public to comment. Because without us being there commenting, they'll just try to do as little as possible to put the law into action. So we have to make sure that rules are really strong. So the most important thing that my policy committee does a lot of public commenting. And so in order to do that, we also have to analyze the rules, and people that are really into that can help with that. We make toolkits, and we put together talking points to help other people comment. So if you like to do that type of thing, you can help me with that. Or you can show up at multiple agency hearings and opportunities for the public to come out and say what you think. And they're most often on Zoom. So that's the main role that I'm looking for. I haven't seen the participant list, so I think I saw Ryan's message in the chat earlier, but we have a great team of public commenters who've done a lot and have been super reliable and consistent, but we always need more. So it would be great to have you join us for the public commenting. I will say public comment is also going to be important in the legislative session. This is where there's that overlap, but there's going to be a bill actually to try to phase out new permits by 2030. So kind of a 1-2 punch with the bill and the ballot initiative. If we can get the lawmakers to pass it, that would be really, really incredible. But we will need a lot of people turning out to comment at committee hearings and stuff like that, and calling your legislators. I'm sure Matt will talk more about that. Other roles would involve helping me track events. There is so much going on at the same time. There's 4 different agencies, and then there's just so many rules that they're trying to work on, that there are a lot of events, and I could use help tracking those. Another thing that we're going to try to do in the policy committee, because we tend to have people that like to look at facts and counter misinformation and gather resources, we're going to be gathering a lot of these resources to counter the misinformation. So that will help with the messaging campaigns and help with the comms department. But we need to start gathering those resources. And then Sierra's already talked about the need to write LTEs and opinion pieces. Multiple committees will have the need for people writing LTEs and opinion pieces. So if you're interested in any of this, I'd love to have you join my committee. You don't have to come to the meetings. If you just want to get on the committee list, then you'll get all the announcements about opportunities to do public comment, and you'll get the toolkits and stuff like that. So I would love to be able to send you those announcements for when you have time to make the comments. And with that, I'll pass it on to the next person.
Thanks, Heidi. So yeah, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but my name is Matt, and yeah, I am the Promoting Climate Solutions Coordinator. A lot of what we do out here is kind of elevating a lot of the legislative work that's already being done. So we're activating the base to be able to go out there and attend town halls and to comment and to, rally around a point with people. And a long-term goal here is to secure, support, and amplify pro-climate and ecological policies at the legislative, regulatory agencies, and other governmental bodies. And yeah, with that, we're going to have some pretty awesome events coming up here soon that I'll let you know about in a second. But some of our short-term goals here are going to be our Global Week of Action, which is February 26th through March 4th in connection with the Stop the Money Pipeline people. They are awesome. Majorly, protesting and holding, I guess, holdouts and speaking with people about getting out of AIG, Chubb, Liberty Mutual, and Costco because they finance and insure a lot of these major polluters. Also, I guess a message up here for the promoting solutions aspect of it is we used to have two different calls. We had a renewable energy committee and we had a regenerative agriculture committee. And both of those have now been merged into a promoting solutions committee. And so, yeah, if you'd like to join that, feel free to shoot me a message. They're really awesome. And the other major, I guess, committee call that we would encourage you to join is our legislative action committee call. And that is twice a month on Monday evenings at 5 o'clock, 5 to 6, just an hour. And yeah, that just leads me right into roles. So with that, we're looking for one more co-chair, and what a co-chair really entails is just helping maybe with a little planning with the agenda, sometimes, pulling in a resource or, helping secure someone to speak. A legislative bill tracker. We have our tracker that we've got going on, but it's always nice to have other people plugged into different avenues. And on some level, it's also kind of what Bobby was talking about with the watchdog. We're trying to have people be able to tell us where certain town halls are, where this legislator is going to be popping up, and how we can connect and meet with these people and have our people go out into those spots. Obviously, we'd also like another note taker. We've got one, but you can always have more. For our promoting solutions committee, also we're looking for a co-chair and a note taker. And then, yeah, to be determined here, but we're having our climate lobby day relatively soon here, and that is going to be a huge and awesome event. And when that comes around, we will definitely be providing more details. But really just looking for legislative group leaders on that day to kind of help explain the lobbying process to everybody that comes and attends. But yeah, that is kind of it off the top of my head here. But yeah, we do a lot of work that's basically grassroots organized, activating a grassroots movement that's centered around legislative action, lobbying, divestment, and education. So we'd also love to have you be a part of our committees and groups and be plugged in with us if you'd like. And if so, feel free to reach out. And with that, I will pass it to the end, I believe, the poll.
Yes. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Bobby. We are in the last 5 minutes here, so we're going to wrap up, but with a quick poll because we just covered a lot of ground. There's so many roles here that overlap with bodies of work. So hopefully you can see what we see, that even doing one of these things tonight is leading to an intersection with other ways that organizing is realized, which is really cool. So just in the chat, what gifts and strengths do you see as you being able to bring to the movement or have brought to the movement? For those that have been organizing with us before that are here tonight, a huge shout out to you and your many gifts of dedication and working hard and being compassionate, flexible. But what else? What else do folks see as strengths they can bring to the movement? Do any of my teammates even want to say something here? As folks drop stuff in the chat. Let's see, Bill. Yep. Comments. There's an art to it at the end of the day when you get down to it. So that's a good one. What else? Any other strengths or gifts that people see? Ooh, that's a good one. Jamie, chant leading group collective, songwriting. Yes. Be surprised. Not a lot of people want to hold the blowhorn, right? That's really wonderful. Passion, yes. Oh, and telling your story. Oh, so true, Bill. Persistence. Yes, Graciela, that sounds awesome. We would definitely connect. Ooh, and one-to-one relationship building. Then we will definitely be connecting. That's so wonderful. I'm glad everyone can find a way to see their strengths and gifts, right? We gotta get good at doing that and naming it, because it just gives it more power and it really allows it to shine the ways that we know it can. Especially if you're a part of, a supportive, connective community like this, and you feel that. So to wrap us up and to go forward into the ether, into the night, into the week and the year, let's connect further. A lot of us here are like really eager to have some like one-on-one time with you past tonight, talk further or connect you with other really cool organizers we know maybe that are in your zip code. You know, consider that how all of these roles play a really significant leadership responsibility in this journey and this movement, and that every one of them matters. So don't get too caught up in trying to think about what's going to have the most impact. They're all impactful. Every single effort matters. Our action dashboard on our website, 350colorado.org, we try to populate with fresh new content and opportunities. So if you don't really follow us on social media, that's a good place to check online. To make that plug, there are the 2 QR codes to follow us on social media. If you're on Instagram or Facebook and you want to catch updates or share our posts that way with others in your network, I think one easy thing to take away tonight is that, that opportunity and ability that we have to connect with others and really activate them. Because one of the other really crazy statistics that came out of that Yale School of Climate Change Communication, I talked about it early on, but it said that 65% of Americans rarely or never discuss global warming or the climate crisis with their family, but over half of us believe it's real. So to Sierra's point on the Overton window, we have a little bit of work to do, I think, still to just normalize it, talk about it more, and just, bring power to it and activate others in that journey. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. We are like right on the money here for 7:15 to wrap up. Those are all of our emails there, how to contact us. If you don't reach out to us, we're gonna reach out to you, because we really, again, want to follow up with resources from tonight, more links and things to explore. But just time to sit down and connect and get relational, right? And just learn about your interests and passions, where we can meet you at, and make this the most fun, effective, cool, transformative thing it can be. You all rule. Big love to all of you. Have a safe, lovely evening. If you want to hang on and chat with any of us, we'll hang on to be the last ones here. But take care, stay well, and hope to be crossing paths with most or all of you going forth. We got this. Thank you, everyone.